Welcome back. It's story time with Joe again. This week's story comes from the book of Luke, Luke chapter 10. This story comes from the Children's Bible in 365 stories and is titled The Good Friend. Here we go. One of the teachers of the scriptures asked Jesus a difficult question, trying to trick him. "Teacher," he said, "what must I do to gain eternal life?" "You know the scriptures," Jesus replied. "What do they say?" "They tell us to love God with all our heart and mind and strength, and to love other people too," he answered readily. "You're right," Jesus agreed. "Go and do that, and you will gain life." But the teacher of the law wasn't satisfied, so he tried again. "How am I supposed to love other people?" he asked. What does that mean?" "One day," Jesus began, "a man set out off down the steep and dangerous road from Jerusalem to Jericho. Suddenly, robbers sprang on him from behind the boulders. They beat him up, stole his clothes and money, then took to their heels, leaving him stripped and half dead by the roadside. After a while, someone else came along. He was a priest, fresh from his duties in the temple in Jerusalem. When he saw the cloud of buzzing flies and the body covered in blood, he walked quickly past, on the other side of the road. For all he knew, the man might be dead, and no priest was supposed to touch a corpse. A little later, a Levite came along. He too had been serving God in the temple. He went across to have a closer look at the victim. He guessed only too well what had happened. Suppose the robbers were still behind the rocks, ready to jump on him? He hurried off quickly as well. At last, a Samaritan came along. His people were not friends with the Jewish nation, yet he felt full of pity for the injured man. He went over to him and began to clean up his wounds with antiseptic. He treated them with soothing oil and bandaged him. Then he carefully lifted him onto his donkey and led him to the nearest inn. He gave the innkeeper 2 silver coins. "Take care of him until he is well," he said. "If you have any further expenses, I'll pay you next time I call." Jesus turned to his questioner. "Which of the 3 passers-by showed love to the wounded man?" he asked. "Well, the one who was kind to him, I suppose," the law teacher admitted, grudgingly. "Then go and be like him," Jesus said. The Samaritan and the wounded man, they didn't know each other, and their people didn't even get along. Yet the Samaritan cared for the wounded man. That is loving your neighbor. Our neighbor that we should love could be someone that lives on the other side of the world. Jesus tells us to go do that. So until next week, go love your neighbor. Bye-bye. Take care.